Hello team, this is another training video. This one is about our Diabetes Pro. We're going to go into some great detail here. I'm going to take just a second, like I do on all of our training videos. If you have not gone through the printed material in great detail, great depth, and studied it, I would not watch this video until you've done so, because the video is designed to take the material you've learned from the presentation and the scientific material and highlight what's important to teach you how to make it how to use it and how to present it. It's just really what the goal of this is. So don't shortcut the system, because you'll be lost if you haven't studied this material in great detail. This video will be a total waste of your time. So go back and do that. Now, if you have, let's move forward. First of all, welcome to probably one of the most innovative and exciting genetic programs in 2020 and beyond. This Diabetic Pro, first of all, let me give you a little background. This is an international program, and it's getting some good results in other countries. In the United States, it's getting a good foothold, getting started. Now we have the exclusive right to this test in the United States. If they're going to get it, they have to come through our lab to get it. There's nobody else out here offering this to anybody, and won't be. So what really should excite you is the overall program here and the numbers that they're looking at, the breakdown and the business plan, business model. They're expecting between at least 100 to possibly $200 million revenue from this test alone. Now, remember I said this is exclusive. They got to come through us for this plan. So the key is, how much of it can you secure through the providers that you can come in contact with and working through your referrals. So sit back, tighten up your seatbelt, because we're going to cover it kind of quickly, but not so fast that it can't be consumed. And then we'll follow up with Q&A with your managers and myself or whatever later. The Diabetes Pro, this is a test, but this is part of a complete diabetes program, which is important that you know that, and you market that way. The Diabetes Predict can, basically, we're here to just help people. What we're trying to do is find the people who haven't been diagnosed with diabetes yet or have become symptomatic yet. Obviously, if they are already, then this is still useful to them because it gives the provider valuable genetic and other information to be able to use to steer and control the treatment that you're going through to mitigate what's going to happen if you let diabetes run its course. This is a little sample picture. We'll go into more detail on how this report looks in just a minute. But basically, it helps you discover your type 2 risk, your family, your how to recommend different treatments, and then different lifestyle, stuff like that, because this is a program, not just a test. Now remember, we don't diagnose, we only do the testing. The provider actually diagnoses someone. Just because they've got the genetic markers and they got all these other things, we can't tell them they're diabetic because we're not physicians. Only a provider can do that. Well, over 500,000 people, and I'm telling you, this has got to be an old number. Well, I'll leave it at that. There's going to be a lot more people. They're lowering A1C numbers so low that almost every human walking is considered a diabetic now. But the way this particular place works, there's a test involved with either a cheek swab or a blood draw. They get the results. There's an app and program that goes along with it. We'll hit here in just a second. but it gets into the genetics and how to prevent the type 2 diabetes from coming for someone who is genetically predisposition. We can head things off before they're diagnosed and save them some money for that thing too. The target population for this test, and read this with me, and high-risk adults who are they're either overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, previous diabetes during pregnancy, a lot of gestational diabetes go on to develop diabetes later, and then a family history of diabetes. Now, before we go any further, how many people just popped in your head right then, and probably including maybe even some of yourself or family members, that's already in this category? All right, then read on. High-risk children and teenagers that are obese with a family or with a family history of type 2 diabetes. That just opened up even more. Now, the third one, blood sugar levels are high. There's a lot of people out there that haven't been diagnosed, but when they get their sugar checked, sugar's a little bit high. That's one of the first indications. And then the last one, pretty much seals the deal for about 2/3 of the population, overweight, and lead to a sedentary lifestyle. How many couch potatoes game players you know out here right now that, I mean, this is what we're looking at. Now, backing up here, remember, this is part of a program to mitigate, hopefully prevent the actual diabetes from happening, or at least mitigate it when it does. That's the reason. Now, this is covered by all commercial insurance plans. Well, I'm sure there's somebody that may exclude it somehow, but if they do, then we've got a cash payment plan for that. But the point I was trying to make is Medicare, Medicaid, well, actually Medicaid, Medicare doesn't cover the test because typically Medicare means you're 65 and older. If you've already at 65 and you haven't discovered your diabetes by now, Medicare at this point in time doesn't see the benefit. Can they save enough money by diagnosing it now to get it back before the people die? It's a math problem. I mean, I know it sounds cold, but it's all about math and all about the Benjamins. Now here, and let me open up a copy of it. This is the test. If I can open it. Drag it over here. Well, it's not cooperating. Here we go. All right, sorry for that. The test that the provider is going to get back when this test is run looks very similar to this. The number one page is it just uses a flat out graph to listen to you to low, medium, or high risk. This one's 53, which is just into the high risk category. It says patient's genetic risk is well above the mean genetic risk of the population. What this does, the next page goes into great detail, and I have to blow it up a little bit to read it. It goes into the different genotypes that they've done. This one, they got the patient's name and all that stuff blocked out, but the age, parental history, yes, BMI 30.1, which is a little bit vertically challenged. Now, over here, you see all the different genes and genotypes that they're testing for. The ones in red are in risk over here, and then the black is no risk. So you got these genes right here that affect, see, when it comes to diabetes, there's two different methods here. One, there's no insulin or too little insulin. You're not making enough to do what you need. Ergo, your blood sugar is going up, and this is your type 2 diabetes. And then, of course, now type 1 diabetes with juvenile, that's outside of the realm of this because that's going to be already done, probably with their children. But you got reduced beta cells, reduced functions, or whatever's taken, but you're not making enough insulin from the pancreas to do right. So those are people who typically will be put on insulin. Now there's others that they actually have plenty of insulin. Their body just doesn't know how to use it. It's resistant to it. And there's so many different causes. You got obesity, increased BMI, hypothalamic dysregulation, the hormone that works into your body about how to use it. Your insulin resistance that is not caused by obesity, and dyslipidemia that I think it's a chicken and the egg type question. If you'll notice, most type 2 diabetics have sky high triglycerides, or the more studies come out, is that the sky high triglycerides is a precursor for the elevated blood sugar. Chicken or egg, but they usually run hand in hand. About every diabetic you test and you see the blood work, if their sugars, A1Cs are high, so their triglycerides are probably pretty high too. So your body's resistant to it here, and you accumulate the sugar, and a lot of times it's in the form of fat. That's why you see these people have a hard time losing weight, because they just, even if they take insulin, they can't get their body to burn the sugar up, and it's storing it. So that's what the problems you run into. And I'm not going, again, you should have already studied all this, because you do not want to go head to head with a provider with this test without this knowledge, because they will eat your lunch. I can tell you, you need to know your stuff when you're coming out here with this stuff. So read it so you can pronounce it and do it and understand it, because they're going to go ahead. If you show them that you have a good idea what you're talking about and you're there truly to help, once you gain the respect of that provider, you're in the house. They'll order this when everybody can just about stand up. But again, we don't diagnose type 2 diabetes. The doctor or physician or PA, whoever does, the provider does, we give them tools to decide do they think it is or not, or if it's something else. So that's what this is for. This page here, this is part of the Diabetes Predict program that goes along with this test that we just ran. It goes through all these different, remember the genetic variants on that one page that were bad numbers? Well, here it goes into recommendations and other actions that the physician or provider can look into. It might be something as simple as aerobic exercise. They might have some other, like kidney or other types of problems. Zinc intake, Mediterranean diets, aerobic exercise, you'll see that a lot in all the ones on this column here. This one here, the CTCC, caloric restriction, they got to stop eating so much, eat more high proteins, inquire about their diet and things like that. And then you got vitamin deficiencies. So there's so many different reasons. But see, now before you diagnose your blood sugar's high, you're diabetic, your A1C is blankety blank. Right now, I think anything over 6.9 is diabetic. When I first started back in the 90s, it was like 9. I think over 9, 8.9 or whatever it was diabetes. Now it's keep going down, down, and down. They're going to keep on. Everybody can stand up, it's going to be diagnosed as diabetes. But right now, it's, I think, 6.9. So that's what they based it all off of. Well, see, now we have a genetic composition and all these different variants that not only will break it down as to do they really what type of problem that they have, what to fix it, as opposed to the standard 99 physicians you go to when you're diagnosed with high blood sugar. They're going to tell you to cut back on the sugar and join the gym. Boom. See you in 3 months. Test A1C again. Have you cut back on your sugar? Yeah, doctor. You lost it 2 pounds. I swear I cut it back. I swear I cut it back. Did you join the gym? Yeah, I joined the gym. How many times do you go? Shoot, I go about every week. How many times a week? Oh, about every week. And that's what I'm saying. That's today, prior, that has been the test. That has been the treatment test. Now they can get down and even talk about different mineral supplements and things that will specifically intervene with that diabetes treatment and care. Everybody needs this test. Now, this is the bibliography. This thing has been studied inside, outside, upside, one side, and back. There's enough evidence-based data here. This thing proves many insurance companies are not going to pay for something that's not highly proven. Now, along with this, there's actually, once the diagnosis is made by the provider, they actually are part of the, they join the program. Patty is the one that does the testing. Now, this is a worldwide event. Now, we have the exclusive rights for the United States. Now, some of the stuff in here is not going to apply because, in some countries, you can actually order the material and test yourself at home and send it in and get this stuff. Over here, that's not going to apply. It has to be, you have to be seen by a provider, and they have to make the diagnosis, and they have to recommend the treatment. So, with this being said, let's see. It starts off with an app that they put on their phone. Very similar. You've probably seen, what's that one on TV, or something like that, and all these different apps that want to get you moving. What this does is it gives you motivation. You can see visual representation. I haven't exercised enough today. I haven't walked far enough. I've eaten the wrong foods or whatever. It's something there to help you guide you through the day, as opposed to not having to deal with it till a couple of days before you go back to that 3-month doctor appointment, which has been the typical thing in the past. But there you download the app, put it on your phone. It's got recipes. It helps you control your calorie rates. It helps you control your medical treatment, your labs. Helps you share everything with your provider. The provider has a portal list. They can see how you're doing as you go along. So there's some accountability in there that makes this thing more successful. You set challenges. You can go in here and so listen, you connect it to a wearable like a watch or whatever, and then count your steps. You know, I want to run 10,000 steps a day. I want to do 200 calories less per day, whatever. You know, you can set that up through this app and work with it, and optimize it to make it work for you. You know, I'm not going to do the whole thing because that don't apply in the United States. That's only in the UK, I think, right now. So now, if you're not from a medical background, that's why you really got to take the time to deep dive and understand all the ins and outs of this. Because if you're not a diabetic, or even if you are and you haven't been exposed to this level of treatment and work, it's not going to make sense. You need to understand what the disease process is and how we play a role in either stopping it or managing it. Either way is life-changing to the people. I mean, you might make a difference as whether or not somebody actually gets diagnosed with it or not. They may just have the precursor for it, and you can head things off and they'll never have to deal with it. Or they could be diabetic already, and you make the difference as to whether or not that person has their feet or legs 10 years from now, or whether they can see 10 years from now, or are they going to be blind? So a lot of good that we can do with this test, which leads to the program through the app, which leads to the lifestyle change and the person's ultimate coming out. Now, from a presenting it to the provider's standpoint, this, go back to my screen. This 3-page report right here, typically this is the main one. Well, they're all three actually good. This page right here, but this 3-page report, just like on other tests that we do, you know, if you get a physician that really wants to exude themselves as God Almighty or whatever, because you're gonna hear a lot of them that say, I've been treating diabetics for 35 years and I don't need no tests. Tell me I'm treated diabetic. I'll tell them to cut back on what they're eating and whatever, you know, just like before. But this is 21st century medicine. You can show them to listen. You can still do that. You can, but now you're armed with the information to know how to treat that patient and get them better. Because see, what you got to understand, and if you've watched other videos, I go into this on all the trainings. These physicians and providers are being reimbursed now based on outcomes, not number of tests ordered. It's outcomes. The satisfaction scores, particularly with CMS, which again, that's not going to be a big deal here other than Medicaid, but the satisfaction scores are huge. And then the outcome. If you're treating somebody for diabetes and you're refilling their prescriptions every 3 months and you're griping at them because they didn't cut back on the sugar like you told them to, you're going to be fiscally or financially penalized with a reduction in your reimbursement rates because your patients are not getting better. That's the new way that insurance and CMS is paying people, is for results. They're not paying for just showing up anymore. You're getting paid for results. This gives results. This gets compliant patients on board. Now, will there be some that still won't? Fine, but now if you've got, and I'm talking to you as a provider, you got a patient that has this much data telling them exactly this particular mineral, this particular diet, or this particular whatever could fix your problem with minimal life interruption. Minimal. You tell somebody to cut out sugar, that's life altering. You're going to get compliance for about a week, if that. Especially when you're looking from real sugar, not just carbohydrates, but real sugar is 10 times more addictive than heroin. You think they're just going to walk out of your office and say, okay, I'm done. I'm done with sugar. I'll never take another bite of sugar in my life. Not happening. This is a program to help them wean it back. No little areas they could cut some here, and eventually lifestyle change. That's what this program does, and it gives them this much information. They have the app that gives them accountability. It gives them reward. It gives them feedback as they go along. They don't just walk out of the office and, okay, well, I guess I have to cut out sugar for 3 months. And then they go home. They'll go that night because they'll cut out dessert that night. The next day they get up, they go back to life just like usual. 2 months and 29 days later, they cut out the sugar, go in the doctor's office, you cut sugar out. Yeah, I did pretty good with it, and that life goes on. This stops that. This is medicine. Takes all that and helps them overcome the disease, which that's how the physician is going to get reimbursed, is with higher reimbursement rates and more office visits, because now when you're coming back, you got to go over these results with them. That's an office visit. Now, some of these are going to be real deep, comprehensive office visits. Most of the time, it's going to be ones that you can add on to a day and never affect your patient flow. Bring them in, set them in your office, got your results back. This all looks good. This all looks good. But according to this right here, if we don't cut back on your zinc or increase your magnesium or something like that, you run a really good risk of developing diabetes because you've had some in there. There are genetic genes in your DNA profile. So we need to head things off. So you make these little changes right here and, see me 6 months, whatever, and come back. That little visit, that 90 seconds could be done in an office or a hallway, outside a patient site or whatever, and just increases the income to the practice. So the physician is going to get paid extra for the follow-up. They don't get paid for the test, obviously, because it's the lab test. They're going to get higher reimbursement rates, higher satisfaction rates. They're going to have healthier patients, which really should be high on their priority list to start with. And the lab makes money. Everybody wins if this is used properly, and especially if you use it in conjunction with that app. And if I say this page right here, that report right there is worth its weight in gold. We actually have some other things that your manager will be bringing up that we can use this in conjunction with. There's another program out there for people that help lose weight, for when you got the ones that are having some difficulty losing weight. There's a program here that goes along with that, because as the weight goes, so does diabetes. That makes a big difference in that. So they'll talk with you more about that. I think that's it for today. I just want to kind of go through, make sure you know what you have a hold of. I mean, again, we're talking about life-altering medicine here. Now, if you want to make a good six-figure income doing it and being the steward of it, there's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy it. Enjoy the life. And I mean, physicians, they make multiples of six-figure. We can too. So get out here, get this in front of every provider, get them to order it for everybody that qualifies. And we talked about that. Where'd it go? This page right here, this page and that second or third page of that report, if you just keep going back and forth between those two, Lord have mercy, how many people do you think come to a doctor's office on a day that would not qualify for this? That would not qualify. They're not overweight. They don't have high blood pressure. They don't have cholesterol. They don't have a family or gestational diabetes history. If you're a pediatrician's office, they're not already obese with a family history of type 2. If they're not, most kids are going to have a high sugar reading anyway. And then overweight with a sedentary lifestyle. Now that's about 2/3 of today's youth because of phones and video games. You see the market, folks. It's just a matter of you've got to get out there. You've got to take it to the providers, get them the information, give them the tools to fight with. And it's just, everybody wins. We win, the provider wins, the patient wins. Insurance wouldn't pay a dime on this if they wasn't making money. They wouldn't pay a dime on it. So there's no loser in this if we'll go out here and do our jobs and improve things. So that's it for today. God bless, and we will see you at the top.